His massive march on Washington in 1963 to achieve civil rights. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964.
Man.
King came from a comfortable middle class stuck in a tradition of Southern Black ministry. Both his father and true grandfather were Baptist preachers.
Man.
Young Martin received a solid education and grew up in a long extended family. At 1944 age 15, King entered Morehouse College in Atlanta under a special wartime program intended to boost enrollment by admitting promising high school students like King. Before beginning college, however, King spent the summer on a tobacco farm in Connecticut. It was his first extended stay away from home and his first family experience of race relations outside the segregated South.
King, he graduated from Morehouse in 1948.
Man.
King spent the next 2 years at Crowther Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania, where he became acquainted with Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence as well as with the thought of contemporary Protestant theologians. He earned a Bachelor of Divinity degree in 1951. While in Boston, King met Coretta Scott, a native Alabamian who was studying at the New England Conservatory of Music. They were married in 1953 and had 4 children.
Man.
My children to come up, please.
We must keep moving. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be the highway, be a trail. If you can't be a sun, be a star. For it is of thy size. or is it by size?
For isn't by size if you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are. What did you say? I have a dream. I have a dream.
This is the most important and crucial period of your lives. For what you do now and what you decide now at this age may well determine which way your life shall go. And the question is whether you have a proper, a solid, and a sound blueprint. And I want to suggest some of the things that should be in your life's blueprint. Number one, in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own someoneness. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you are nobody. Always feel that you count. Always feel that you have worth. And always feel that your life has ultimate significance. Secondly, in your life's blueprint, you must have, as a basic principle, the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. You're going to be deciding as the days and the years unfold what you will do in life, what your life's work will be. Once you discover what it will be, set out to do it, and to do it well. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. Finally,
in Birmingham, Alabama, in the spring of 1963, King's campaign came to an end. Segregation at lunch counters and hiring practices drew nationwide attention, and police turned dogs and fire hoses on the demonstrators. In April of 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was tossed in a Birmingham, Alabama jail cell on charges of leading a public demonstration without a permit. During a 9-day sentence, King used the margins of newspaper, bits of jailhouse toilet paper to draft a response to a group of Birmingham clergymen that had denounced his fight against segregation and labeled him as an outside agitator.
King gave his most famous speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedoms on August 28, 1963, to a crowd of more than 250,000 people. It will be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of this moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off steam and would not be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights.
The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nations until the bright day of justice emerges. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. I have a dream today. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing the new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land where the pilgrims cried, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the hiking elegancies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi and from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. When we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every city and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, great God Almighty, we are free at last.
August 28, 1963, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, in front of a crowd of more than 200,000 demonstrators calling for civil rights, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered one of the most important speeches of the civil rights movement. King's speech followed the script until the end. Then, an American gospel singer by the name of Mahalia Jackson caught Dr. King's attention when she shouted out as if she were in a church service. With her deep contralto voice, Dr. King heard Jackson say, "Tell them about the dream, Martin." Dr. King paused and improvised some of his most recognizable words today.
I still have a dream.
Today, a plaque on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial marks the spot where Dr. King said those immortal words, "I have a dream." And Mahalia Jackson is remembered as one of the most important gospel singers of all time. Her rendition of "There is a Balm in Gilead" is often cited as one of the most influential songs of the civil rights movement.
In the face of mounting criticism, King broadened his approach to include concerns other than racism. On April 14, 1967, at Riverside Church in New York, and again, the 15th at the Mammoth Peace Rally in the city, he committed himself to opposing U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. I've been to the mountaintop. King gave his final speech on April 3, 1968 at Mason Temple in Memphis, fewer than 24 hours before he was assassinated.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I mean, I'm get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
It took 15 years of fighting for MLK Day to be declared a national holiday. On Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the entire nation pauses in remembrance of the civil rights hero. MLK Day was designed to honor the activist and minister assassinated in 1968, whose accomplishments have continued to inspire generations of Americans. King was the first modern private citizen to be honored with a federal holiday, and for many familiar with his nonviolent leadership of the civil rights movement, it made sense to celebrate him. The first push for a holiday honoring King took place just 4 days after his assassination. The first federal holiday was celebrated in 1986. It wasn't until 2000 that every state in the Union observed Martin Luther King Jr. Day. In 1960, King and his family moved to his native city of Atlanta, where he became co-pastor with his father of the Ebenezer Baptist Church.
We have an opportunity to make America a better nation. And I want to thank God once more for allowing me to be here with you. You know, several years ago, I was in New York City autographing the first book that I had written. While sitting there autographing books, a demented black woman came up. The only question I heard from her was, "Are you Martin Luther King?" And I was looking down writing, and I said, "Yes." The next minute, I felt something beating on my chest. Before I knew it, I had been stabbed by this demented woman. I was rushed to Harlem Hospital. It was a dark Saturday afternoon. That blade had gone through, and the x-rays revealed that the tip of the blade was on the edge of my aorta, the main artery. And once that's punctured, you're drowned in your own blood. That's the end of you. It came out in the New York Times the next morning that if I had merely sneezed, I would have died. Well, about 4 days later, they allowed me, after the operation, after my chest had been opened and the blade had been taken out, to move around in the wheelchair in the hospital. They allowed me to read some of the mail that came in, and from all over the states and the world, kind letters came in. I read a few, but one of them I will never forget. I had received one from the president and the vice president. I've forgotten what those telegrams said. I received a visit and a letter from the governor of New York, but I've forgotten what that letter said. But there was another letter. It came from a little girl, a young girl, who was a student at the White Plains High School. And I looked at that letter, and I'll never forget it. said simply, "Dear Dr. King, I am a 9th grade student at the White Plains High School." She said, "While it should not matter, I would like to mention that I'm a white girl. I read in the paper of your misfortune and of your suffering. And I read that if you had sneezed, you would have died. I'm simply writing you to say that I'm so happy that you didn't sneeze. And I want to say tonight, that I too am happy that I didn't sneeze, because if I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1960. When students all over the South started sitting in at lunch counters. And I knew that as they were sitting in, they were really standing up for the best in the American dream, and taking the whole nation back to those great wells of democracy, which were dug deep by the founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. If I had sneezed, you gotta call on that something in that person that your daddy used to tell you about. That power that can make a way out of no way. I discovered then that religion had to become real to me, and I had to know God for myself. I bowed down over that cup of coffee. I never will forget it. Oh yes, I prayed a prayer, and I prayed out loud that night. I said, "Lord, I'm down here trying to do what's right. I think I'm right. I think the cause that we represent is right. But Lord, I must confess that I'm weak now, I'm faltering, I'm losing my courage. I can't let the people see me like this, because if they see me weak and losing my courage, they will begin to get weak."
In closing, I hope that we have done something to enlighten you, and I hope the children have learned about Dr. King. We'd like to say that on the third Monday, January the actual 15th, is Dr. King's birthday. We'd like to say happy birthday to Dr. King. And we hope that we all continue to pray and get close to God, just like Dr. King believed.